now. Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and two things. One, this is my Buccaneers 2018 mid-season review. I meant to do this on an edited video, but I was having a lot of troubles with it, and eventually the video files became corrupted, which was not fun at all, let me tell you. So now I'm doing it as a live stream. And second, I actually just live streamed this on the wrong channel. I accidentally live streamed it on my last Rifler channel, my gaming channel. That's not meant for the gaming channel, so we're doing it here. So, like I said in the intro of that channel, which I wasn't even looking at the live stream feed on there, so David could not help me there. But like I said, I'm going to be going through all of the major stats of the offensive and the defensive side of the ball, talk about players I like, talk about players I don't like, or have not been impressive so far, and players that have been impressive so far. I'm going to be talking about all the injuries that the Buccaneers have suffered up to this point, and talk about where the Buccaneers' past free agency class is so far, along with their positions on the team. And I'm also going to be talking about where the Buccaneers' most recent draft class is and how they've been doing this season as well. But before I talk about all of that, first thing I want to say is shout out to one of the men who are saying hello in the chat, Tommy Travis, for being my latest Patreon backer, like I just said on Twitter. Thank you so much for that kind of support, Tommy. It means a lot, my friend. I hope to have you on here on the show very, very, very soon. So, without further ado, let's get right into the meat of this, starting with the quarterback position. And, it's been a fun one, hasn't it, boys? Actually, first things first, David, happy birthday to you, my friend. Oh my gosh, happy birthday. Your birthday is literally 1 week before mine to the day. So that is very exciting indeed. And we'll be talking about some of the questions here in a little bit. And thank you all for the haircut and whatnot. People have told me it's like a military style haircut, and that's all good with me. Yeah, without further ado, let's get started with this. So, thank you all for the haircut compliments. But anyway, getting back to the quarterback position here, and this has been quite a controversial season for the quarterback position, hasn't it, guys? So, obviously, the first 3 weeks of the season, Jameis Winston was suspended due to a violation of the conduct policy with the whole Uber thing. We all know about that. We were talking about it for freaking months. So, for those first 3 games, Ryan Fitzpatrick was your starting quarterback, and then Jameis came back halfway through the Week 4 game versus the Chicago Bears, and then he played versus the Cincinnati Bengals. He played against the Cleveland Browns, and then he played against the Cincinnati Bengals, did not have a fun time against the Cincinnati Bengals, was replaced by Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then Ryan Fitzpatrick just started the most recent game versus the Carolina Panthers. And, yeah, it's been weird, to say the least. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the more successful of the two quarterbacks first, Ryan Fitzpatrick, the long-time veteran as it was. And you know what? He's been putting up some pretty darn good numbers, hasn't he? So far, Ryan Fitzpatrick has a 2-3 record, 1,793 passing yards, 17 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions. This is a Ryan Fitzpatrick we haven't seen since 2015 when he had that 31 touchdown season with the New York Jets, which I don't know if it earned him a Pro Bowl nod or not, but if it didn't, it should have. And to say the least, you know, Fitzpatrick has looked pretty darn good. There has been some times where he hasn't been as efficient, which we will talk about that whenever we're talking about the game-by-game analysis and whatnot. But in terms of everything in general, Fitzpatrick has definitely looked the part, okay? He's been throwing the deep ball to Deshaun Jackson. He's been calling audibles at the line of scrimmage whenever he needs to. He's been hitting all of his weapons, guys like Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, like I just mentioned, Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard. Those guys are the 4 biggest names. You know, those are the 4 biggest names that Fitzpatrick has been throwing to, and we'll get into their stats a little bit later, but Fitz has looked very good. He's got the poise, he's got the swagger, as we've seen in his press conferences with him wearing the shades, the tracksuit and whatnot, you know, and he has the qualities of a leader that we've seen so far. So Fitz has been having a pretty decent year, all things considered. Then you get to Jameis Winston, and this has not been Jameis Winston's year, has it, guys? He's a 1-2 record at starting quarterback position, although technically that Bengals game he was pulled from. 1,181 passing yards, 6 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, and this was after he was not able to play in the first 3 weeks due to that suspension with his off-field problems. So, Jameis isn't having a fun time at all. He's not having a fun time at all. I think there's still a chance that he's obviously the future. I know a lot of people are saying, get rid of him. It's time. It's time to get rid of him, and I completely understand that. This has not been Jameis's year. He threw 4 interceptions versus the Cincinnati Bengals. One of them was returned for a pick 6. And he's just not looked very darn good this year, has he? I think this whole season was just not meant for Jameis. He's been pretty darn cursed, hasn't he? From the suspension to coming back from the suspension to doing really bad since he came back from the suspension. It's just, dude, Jameis, please just calm down. Just sit down for a minute, man. You know, that's what I want to say to Jameis. But needless to say, he's obviously looked like the lesser of 2 quarterbacks right now between him and Fitz. But it's fine. I think you can still have a very good opportunity with Jameis to have him be something for the future, potentially. I mean, you will have him under contract next season as well. So who knows what's going to happen who knows what's going to happen this offseason? I guess that's one thing to say. A lot of you guys are talking in the chat about potentially drafting a quarterback. That could happen. I have no idea. But I will say one thing about both these quarterbacks is they haven't necessarily had a running game to help them out that much at all. Peyton Barber is our lead rusher this year with 376 rushing yards to 1 touchdown. That's it. He's our lead rusher. And that's with a running back room of guys like Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones, Jaquiz Rogers, and Sean Wilson being the entirety of that position. Just to put that a little bit into perspective, I guess you could say. Jameis Winston has 109 rushing yards this year and 1 touchdown. And Ryan Fitzpatrick has 103 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. They are number 2 and number 3 in the rushing stats, by the way. So needless to say, we could do with a bit of a running game here in the second half of the season. Now, I know a lot of people have said, and even the Bucs coaches have said, well, it's a passing offense. You know, we don't expect to run the ball that much. And I get that, kind of. But you'd like to see a little bit more there. Maybe if Peyton Barber was up to like maybe 450 yards, 450 to like 480, 90, maybe even 500 yards, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with our running game. But right now, I'm not feeling very good with it at all. And speaking about running game, passing game, you can't do any of that without an offensive line. So getting into our offensive line, and to be honest, it's been pretty mixed so far. In some games, they've looked pretty decent, and in other games, they've looked terrible, like absolutely terrible. Like in this most recent game versus the Carolina Panthers, they looked atrocious. So I want to go through player by player and talk about how they've been so far. The first guy I want to talk about is Ali Marpet. And Ali Marpet, you know, he's been good. He's been exactly what Ali Marpet's been. Just a pretty solid guard, one of the better guards in the league. He just got paid this year, actually. I believe he's a 5-year, $55 million deal, something along those lines. He got paid. Mike Evans got paid. Cameron Brake got paid. All 3 of those players, I'm happy to have them in the long term. So, yeah, I'm very happy with Marpet so far and what he's been able to do. Moving on to Donovan Smith, the starting left tackle for the Buccaneers, and it's been the same type of story for him. Been kind of a mixed bag, Donovan Smith has been, hasn't he? There's some games where he shows up and he looks pretty good, all things considered, and you sit there and you think, okay, Donovan Smith deserves his money. He definitely deserves to be paid some good tackle money. And then there's other games that make you think, oh my gosh, are we really going to pay this guy top tackle money? Because you know that's probably what he's going to ask for. I'm very intrigued as to why Ali Marpet has signed his extension, you know, so far early on in the season, and Donovan Smith hasn't. Maybe they're still ironing out details and whatnot, or maybe it's a situation where they wanted to get their best lineman signed up, and they're not too sure about Donovan Smith yet. Maybe Donovan Smith's contract is one that waits till the end of the season to get addressed, and maybe they even let him walk into free agency before trying to re-sign him. Who knows what's going to happen, but so far, Donovan Smith's been a pretty mixed bag. Moving on to the center position, Ryan Jensen, and that's been, you know what? Pretty darn good, hasn't he? Ryan Jensen has been very good, very good, not just as a lineman, but as a leader as well. Ryan Jensen has been a guy where if you hit his quarterback, you know, if a defender hits his quarterback late or, you know, hits him too hard, helmet to helmet hit or whatever, Jensen's the first guy. And we can all agree on this. You know, Jensen's the first guy to go in and just say, hey, get your hands off my quarterback, or I will literally kill you. You know, and I like that. It does draw some penalties, which sometimes, you know, in the heat of the game, I do get a little bit aggravated at that and say, okay, calm it down. But, you know, it's good. He's defending his quarterback. Ryan Jensen looks like one of the ultimate team players. I was so happy that even after the Indianapolis Colts took him on a private plane, flew him to Indianapolis after his visit with us, they asked him to play guard. And you know, they asked him to play guard, and he was like, I want to play center. So he went and came with us, played center, and I'm happy because he's been one of the better free agent additions that we've had so far this year. And I'll definitely be talking about that a little bit more when we get to that section of this review. But yeah, Ryan Jensen, I would say he's probably been our second best offensive lineman. And that's a hard thing to say, but you know, he's been good. He's been good. Right guard position, oh my god, the right guard position. Can we talk about the right guard position for a minute, guys? I know a lot of you are talking about Vita Vea for a minute and talking about mentioning the big cat. I will be mentioning both Vita Vea and the big cat and all that. But can we change the chat real quick to talk about Caleb Benenoch? I think we can all agree that Caleb Benenoch has been not very good. Not very good. Yeah, he's been terrible. He's been really bad. He can't seem to block anything. And it's even gotten to the point where they've started to rotate him out with Evan Smith, which I know a lot of people have been complaining about. They're rotating guards and whatnot. I mean, I'm kind of okay with it because Benenoch has not been looking the best. It kind of leads me to question, why haven't we been playing Alex Kappa, or why haven't we just given the full starting job to Evan Smith rather than giving Benenoch the majority of the snaps? But, you know, that's their decision, not mine. I would rather go with Evan Smith or Alex Kappa, because honestly, you can't get much worse at this point. Benenoch's bad. And Steven, to your point of Ryan Jensen's struggled a little bit, I will go look at his numbers a little bit later, Pro Football Focus, just from what I've seen, the eyeball test and whatnot. He's looked decent. He's looked fiery. And I look for more character and, you know. Steven, okay, I'll go look at the numbers, Steven, just for you in a little bit, but not right now, because I'm on a roll. Anyway, finally moving on to the right tackle position, DeMar Dodson. I love DeMar Dodson. I think he's a wonderful tackle, one of the top tackles in the league last year. He's been doing pretty decent this year, all things considered. He is getting a little bit older, so you will eventually have to find a replacement. But I think he's fine for right now. I have no problems with I've had no problems with DeMar Dodson. I think he's a wonderful offensive lineman. He's right up there with being he's right up there being with Ali Marpet as the best offensive lineman we have. I hope he retires a Buck. He's going to be one of the rare guys, hopefully, that plays his entire career with the Buccaneers. I would love that. That'd be awesome. So that's been the offensive line. Pretty mixed bag, all things considered. Just they look really decent one game, they look really bad another game. What are you going to do? That's just kind of the NFL. But moving on to the receiving weapons, and they've been having a good year, haven't they, guys? They've been having a darn good year. Mike Evans is the first one, 47 receptions, 786 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's one of the best wide receivers in the league. He says it, we say it, we all know it. We all absolutely know it. Mike Evans is one of the best wide receivers in the league. He will be for a long time. We've got him for multiple years now. He's great. I really can't say enough good things about Mike Evans. He's absolutely phenomenal. Deshaun Jackson as well has been having a pretty good year, and I want to point out the difference here between Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson's stats, okay? 28 receptions, 626 yards, and 4 touchdowns for Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun has 21 less receptions than Mike Evans. However, he only has 162 less yards, and he still has the same amount of touchdowns. That's pretty darn good, if you ask me. I like that a lot, actually. I think that's pretty funny. That just goes to showcase the insane deep threat Deshaun Jackson is. You know, Fitzpatrick has been able to hit him on the deep balls a lot. James Winston hit him on 1 or 2 deep balls so far this season. Obviously, Jackson likes working with Fitz a little bit more, and we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get into the story of this year and whatnot, talking about all that. But Deshaun Jackson, he's been very solid as well. He almost got traded. He was almost traded, I guess. You know, people asked about him, but he ultimately wasn't traded. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him, especially considering the money he's expected to make next year, around $11 million. Whether or not he gets traded this offseason or he gets released. Whatever happens, it should be interesting. The next two guys I want to talk about have very similar stats. It is Adam Humphries and Chris Godwin. So Chris Godwin, 30 receptions, 380 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Adam Humphries, 35 receptions, 378 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like I said, very, very similar stats. You know what? They're both very good role players so far. We all expected Chris Godwin to make a little bit more of a jump this year. We all expected Chris Godwin at this point to potentially have probably around 500 yards. I say still 4 touchdowns. We expected a very big year for Chris Godwin so far, and he's potentially even going into that number 2 wide receiver position. And it hasn't happened yet, but that's fine. He still does some really good things, obviously, as we've seen in the game so far this year. He's been a very reliable guy. And then Adam Humphries, dude's a beast. Dude's so good. He's pretty darn reliable. He has good hands, runs quick routes. He's just a reliable guy. I really hope we re-sign him this offseason because his contract will be up at the end of the year. So I hope we can keep him. And then finally, the last guy I want to talk about is the tight end position, O.J. Howard. I'm not going to talk about Cameron Brate because, honestly, he hasn't done that much this year, which is fine. He's still a reliable guy. He had, I believe, 12 catches, 132 yards, something like that, and 3 touchdowns. So, shout out to Cameron Brate. But O.J. Howard, 28 receptions, 472 yards, and 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns. O.J. Howard's putting in more work than Godwin and Adam Humphries, with less catches, I might say, as well. O.J. Howard is going to be one of the top tight ends in this league. There were some people who were questioning that pick when we made it. I thought it was a possibility, but I didn't think it was a very high possibility of us drafting O.J. Howard. They ended up drafting O.J. Howard, and oh boy, he is such a good tight end, isn't he, guys? I mean, he's not top 5, but top 15, top 10 this season, at least. This season. He's put up some very good numbers, so I'm excited to see what happens in the future when we can unleash the full potential of Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, and Chris Godwin, because that's the future. That's the future lineup right there, and maybe you sprinkle in a little bit of Adam Humphries if he's still here. But those 3, Evans, Godwin, and O.J., those are the guys. Those are the guys for the next 6, maybe 7 years, and it's an exciting thing to see. So it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Now, finally, I want to move on to the defensive side of the ball. But first, I'm going to take a little bit of a drink as you guys are all talking. JPP, OJ for the Pro Bowl. Oh, we'll get into that, Steven. Don't you worry, my friend. We will get into that. Drinking a Pepsi, boys. Don't mind me. Gotta stay hydrated for these, even though Pepsi doesn't hydrate you, but whatever. Taking a look at the defensive side of the ball, and it has not been good. If our offense is one of the best because it's just an overall passing offense juggernaut, our defense has been one of the worst. We fired Mike Smith after a little chunk into the season. Thank you, Steven. I know sodas are bad for me. It's fine. I'll get water next time, okay? Okay, count on it, Steven. I'll get water. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Our defense has been one of the worst. We've either had to win shootouts in games this year, or lose shootouts, or to get blown out because our defense can't do anything. They can't stop anything. But there have been a few people who have impressed this year. A few, okay? Lavonte David being the first one. 64 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, a half sack, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovered. That's pretty good. That's typical Lavonte numbers in my opinion. You'd like to see him have an interception or 2 up to this point so far in the year, but Lavonte David's been Lavonte David. I think he has missed some opportunities here and there. He might have taken a little bit of a downtick, but I still think he's a phenomenal talent. I think he's the best defensive player on our team. I mean, I know it's not much of a competition, but Lavonte David's still really darn good, okay? I talked about Cameron Brate a little bit, Ralph. I'm sorry. I talked about it a little bit. But anyway, Lavonte David's been good. He's been good. Pass coverage, like I said, he's taken a little bit of a downtick in some areas he could be better in, but all in all, he's been decent. Next thing I want to talk about is Justin Evans, and I know some people have, well, not some people, everybody in the world has burned our secondary, has just burned it to the ground for good reason. But Justin Evans is probably the best secondary piece we have right now. 48 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 2 pass deflections, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception, and 1 touchdown. The 1 defensive touchdown that he scored was on a fumble recovery that he took, I believe, 68 yards for a touchdown. I think that was, week 1 versus the Saints. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Vernon Hargreaves forced the fumble, and then Justin Evans took that fumble for a touchdown. So, hey, Justin Evans, he's looking good. I think he's a future safety, long-term safety for us. I'd be fine with having him be the guy for the next few years. I'm completely okay with that. The problem is getting a guy next to him, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the next guy I want to talk about, Jason Pierre-Paul. We all know how good Jason Pierre-Paul is. He's insanely good this year. 26 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 13 quarterback hits, 1 forced fumble, and 8 sacks in 8 games. He's a beast. He's the best defensive lineman the Buccaneers have had, or I guess I should say best defensive end, maybe best defensive lineman the Bucs have had in years, maybe in the past 8 years, guys. This is the best season that a Buccaneers defensive lineman has had in a long time, ever since we drafted McCoy. There might have been a season or two in there where McCoy was been doing better, but JPP is so freaking good. He's so good. Oh my gosh, I wish he was here his entire career at the Buccaneers. I think he's 29. I wish he could be here till he was 34 just so he could teach people. I want him to be here for a while. I know we're paying him a lot of money, but geez, you guys can't say that he hasn't been earning his money so far. And he has that mentality, that winner mentality of, I'm the best. I'm one of the best in the world, and nobody's going to stop me. That's great. That's awesome. I love that, and I'm so happy that we have JPP. I wish he could have been here his whole career. Obviously, we traded a 3rd-round pick for him in this past offseason with the New York Giants, and we swapped 4th-round picks, but he's phenomenal. I'll talk a little bit more about him. Whenever we're talking about the free agent section and whatnot, and yeah, he's good. I can't say enough things about him. The final guy that I want to talk about is Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis has, to me, not only been the best rookie that we had in this draft class, again, not much of a competition, but he's also been the best cornerback that we've had at this position. I think he's better than Brent Grimes. I think he's a number 1 cornerback in my mind. 25 total tackles, 3 pass deflections, 1 fumble recovery. The dude's great. He's pretty good. I know he's had his missed opportunities here and there, but as a rookie, that happens. You're not going to be phenomenal right away. I think Carlton Davis is going to be good for a long time. I'm happy we have him. I was happy when we drafted him, and so far so good. So far so good. I like him a lot. That's pretty much it for the defense. Everybody else hasn't really had a full season to do some stuff. Been a lot of dinged up guys, been a lot of dinged up injuries going on, it hasn't been fun so far. And that's kind of going to be the next thing I want to talk about. But real quick, I want to talk about the kicking situation that the Bucs have had, and it's been a whole heck of a lot better than last year. Okay, I know a lot of people diss the Big Cat, and that's fine. It's totally okay. He's not perfect. The Big Cat is not perfect. Nobody is. But I tell you what, okay, he's doing okay. He's doing okay. 10 field goals made, 12 field goals attempted for a percentage of 83.3%. And then on the extra points, 23 extra points made with 27 extra points attempted, making it for a percentage of 85.2%. Again, not the best percentage. I get that. Maybe you can do a little bit better. I mean, you probably can do a little bit better, but way better than Roberto Aguayo and Nick Folk. I will never forget Roberto Aguayo and Nick Folk. They were just the lowest point of this Buccaneers kicking curse. They were so bad, and we're finally starting to bounce back a little bit with Chandler Catanzaro, okay? So as bad as Chandler Catanzaro may seem at times, I will always be okay with him because at least he's not Roberto Aguayo or Nick Folk. I will never ever forget that as a Bucs fan. That was my first season doing this as like a full, as going week to week as a YouTuber. It was depressing talking about those two. It was genuinely depressing. So I'm happy we have Chandler Catanzaro. The next thing I want to talk about is the injury bug that the Buccaneers have been plagued with, have just been absolutely plagued with, okay? We've had a lot of injuries this year, and a lot of injuries to our starters more specifically, okay? I'm going to go through all of them, especially even our draft class, okay? It's been really bad, guys. So, starting off, you know, I wrote a whole list, okay? Chris Conte is on the IR after he got stiff-armed into oblivion by Vance McDonald. He was one of our starting safeties, and since he's been injured, we've had a really tough time filling that role. Isaiah Johnson's been there, but you know, we haven't had a strong guy be there. We signed Andrew Adams. We tried using Jordan Whitehead there as well, but he's been getting banged up, so we've been missing Chris Conte a little bit. And don't you deny it, okay? Don't you dare deny it. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that one. Nobody leave, I promise. But yeah, Chris Conte was on the IR. It sucked. He got stiff-armed into oblivion. It was terrible. Next is Quan Alexander. He tore his ACL and got on the IR. That sucked. That wasn't fun. At all. That wasn't fun at all. He was one of our better defensive pieces. I know some people were giving him flack, saying he was overrated, saying that he was missing some assignments here and there, and that's fine. That's completely understandable, but you also can't deny that as soon as he got on the IR, we felt the impact of him being missing immediately. Immediately, his impact was missing, especially in the running game. I know he's only missed a couple of games here, but he's going to be missing a lot more, obviously, since he tore his ACL. That's not good. So definitely gonna need to you know, make sure he gets back healthy, and he's gonna want some money too because his contract runs out at the end of the season. So that's gonna be very interesting. But we've been missing Quan Alexander, and I think to some extent we've also been missing Chris Conte a little bit. Mitch Unrein has also been on the IR. Also see a blue boater. Thank you for coming, my friend. Hello, TB Bucks. How are you, my friend? Anyway, moving on to Mitch Unrein next. Like I was saying, he's also on the IR, which has not been fun. He's had concussion problems, which has sucked, which hasn't been fun at all. I don't know what's specifically wrong with him. He's had severe concussion-like symptoms, which isn't good for one of the guys who we signed in our draft class, or in our free agency class, rather. Hopefully we can get him back, kind of get him as a player to return from the IR. That'd be nice, because we do need a little bit more depth at that defensive tackle position, and he's supposed to be pretty good in the run game, so yeah, he would certainly help out a lot. Kendall Beckwith, he has been hurt the whole year. He has yet to play this year due to an ankle injury. He probably is going to play in this upcoming game versus the Washington Redskins, which is good. That's totally fine with me. But, you know, he's definitely been missing as well. Our linebacker position has just been barren to say the least now, especially right now. The only guy we have left is Levante David from our original starting three, which when everybody's all together and healthy, it's a very good starting three of David, Quan, and Beckwith. So we're missing Beckwith, and we're missing Quan in a big way. Hopefully Beckwith can come back this week and play the second half of the season. That would be pretty nice. Vernon Hargreaves, he went on the IR. I don't know if it was during the Saints game or not. I don't think it was. But Hargreaves is gone as well. He's on the injured reserve. He had a torn pectoral, I believe. That wasn't fun. Another Vernon Hargreaves injury. It'll be really interesting to see how the Buccaneers address this, because when he's played, he's been a very mixed bag type of guy, but he's had a lot of problems with injuries. This is his second year where he's had to go on an injured, either on the injured reserve, or he's missed, you know, a very large chunk of games. Obviously this year he's missed most of the season. Last year I believe he missed almost half of the season. So the Bucs have a very awkward decision to make in the future regarding his contract and what's going to happen with him. But again, you know, Hargreaves went on the IR. Carlton Davis came in as the number 2 corner. Carlton Davis did really good. You know, kind of a weird thing in disguise, but kind of a good, not a good thing, but it's a weird situation. It's a weird situation. I wonder what's going to happen with Vernon Hargreaves. Ronald Jones, he has been inactive for chunks of time this season, and then he's also been hurt for chunks of time this season. Most recently, hurting his hamstring. He's going to be out multiple weeks. This guy can't catch a break this year. He's snake bitten. Almost the entire draft class for the Buccaneers is snake bitten at this point. It's been bad. It's been bad. Hopefully Ronald Jones can come in a little bit later on at the end of this season and do something, but right now he just has had a rough go this year between being inactive, having some growing pains, and getting hurt. The dude's had a rough time. MJ Stewart, he's also been hurt at some points this year. He's only he's played in a couple of games, he's started a couple of games, and while he's been playing, also, like I said, he's had some growing pains as well, and he's been dealing with nagging injuries, which hasn't been fun. I'll talk more about him whenever we're addressing the entirety of the draft class. Then, moving on to Jordan Whitehead, again, another draft class guy who's been dealing with injuries, who could have been, probably productive, because when he has been playing, Whitehead's looked good. He's looked pretty darn good, but he's just been dealing with injuries a lot this year, which has kind of been sucking for the first half of the season. So hopefully Whitehead can come in, be healthy for the second half of the year, because I do think that he'd be good the second half of the season. I really do believe that. Vita Vea, another draft pick who's been hurt, who hasn't been able to play that much due to injury. He's had a lower calf strain, so he missed the few first games of this year, and the games he has come in, obviously, he wasn't able to play at all in the preseason or in training camp or even in the regular season, so he's had to do some catching up as well, which hasn't been fun. I've seen some interesting glimpses here and there. Hopefully he can catch on this second half of the season as well, but man, this draft class has been banged up. Really bad in terms of injuries. Again, snake bitten, if you want to call it that. Jack Sitchie, another draft pick this year. He's on the injured reserve with a torn ACL. He probably could have had the upside to be the starting middle linebacker when that quad injury happened, but they both tore their ACL in the same game. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You can't do anything. Sitchie just needs to recover from that torn ACL and come back stronger. It sucks. Another guy on the IR. And then finally, DeMar Dotson. He's dealing with injuries yet again this year. He deals with them pretty much every year. Same with guys like Gerald McCoy, who's been dealing with injuries. Bo Allen, who's been dealing with injuries. This team's been really banged up this year. Really banged up. And I know that mentality of, next man up, this, that, and the other. I completely agree with that. That's fine. But, man, this team's had a lot of tough goes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 players on the IR right now who are either a starter or borderline fringe starter. So that's disappointing to see. That's not fun at all. So that's all the injuries, basically. And I know there was a lot of people who have missed a game or two here and there. I'm not going to talk about those people because, bleh. We'd be here for 5 hours. But I want to finally move on to the draft class, and then I'm going to do the free agency class, and I'm going to go through a game-by-game analysis of what's been going on. So, talking about the draft class, our our first-round pick, he wasn't the number 1 overall pick, but our 12th overall pick in the first round of the draft, Vita Vea. Oh boy, what can be said about Vita Vea? He has had trouble staying healthy, like I said. Lower calf strain, defensive tackle. Obviously, he's a big man. He's a big man for a defensive tackle, so they didn't want to rush him back. They wanted to make sure that he was 100% full to go. Makes sense. He was your first-round draft pick, but since he's come back, hasn't done a whole lot yet, which is understandable considering how he had not played a single snap of NFL football. Not only in a game, but he only had 1 week of a practice in an NFL capacity. So, that's fine. He's played for a couple of games here, hasn't done too much yet. Hopefully this second half, like I said, he can be fully healthy and be ready to go. But Vita Vea's had a rough go so far. I know a lot of people are saying in the chat right now, Derwin James. I say wait, but I know. It's understandable that everybody would be very upset so far at this point. That is completely understandable. Vita Vea has had a rough rookie season. Second round draft pick was first of 3 second round draft picks, I guess I should say, was Ronald Jones. He's pretty much had the same thing as Vita Vea, except he was inactive. he could have played in some games prior to the him actually playing, but they just didn't activate him. They didn't play him. That wasn't fun. Ronald Jones is another example of a guy who has had a rough go. I think a lot of us thought that he had the potential to be the starter this year. Like with Vita Vea, a lot of people thought that he was going to be that second guy, that second fiddle to Gerald McCoy right away. And for both of them, it's been rough. But more in the case of Ronald Jones, it's been disappointing because he was inactive for the first few games. They finally activated him after the defensive line got a little bit healthier and the cornerback position got a little bit healthier. And then he, he hasn't done much. And then he got hurt with a hamstring injury. And now he's not going to play for the next couple of weeks. That's not fun. That's not fun. Our first 2 draft picks are having a very rough go. They're having a very rough go. Our next second-round draft pick was MJ Stewart, which, again, he's been dealing with injuries, and he's kind of been thrust into that starting nickel role due to the injury of Vernon Hargreaves. So right now our starting cornerbacks have been a mix of Brent Grimes at the 1, Carlton Davis, Ryan Smith kind of getting in there as well, and MJ Stewart getting in there as kind of that nickel role. And, for what MJ Stewart did in the preseason, it was good. I had a lot of decent expectations for him. And so far, again, it's been a mixed bag. It's been very up and down. He's had some decent moments, and he's had some very not good moments. Could be he has some lingering injuries. Could be that he just has some growing pains and needs a little bit more time to develop. I still think MJ Stewart's going to be a good cornerback. I think he just needs to be a little bit fully healthy. And I also think that he needs to just start growing a little bit more, and then I think he'll be fine. Sorry, David threw me off with this all caps text. So, that's interesting. sorry, that completely threw me off. But anyway, I want to talk about the next second-round draft pick that the Bucs made. It was Carlton Davis. I love Carlton Davis. He's my favorite player from this draft so far, and he's phenomenal. He's the best cornerback we've had so far. He's a future number 1 cornerback in my mind. I absolutely love him. He's great. He's absolutely great. I can't say enough good things about Carlton Davis. I loved it when we drafted him. I loved what I saw in training camp. I loved what I saw in preseason, and I love what I see this season. I've big expectations for Carlton Davis. I think he's going to be awesome. I think he's going to be absolutely awesome. I'm happy we have him. Future number 1 cornerback in my mind. You can write that one down, okay? I'm very confident about that one. I know I usually get predictions wrong, but I'm really confident about Carlton Davis. Next is Alex Kappa. A lot of us thought that Alex Kappa was, going to maybe be the starting right guard. We thought that he was going to be another Ali Marpet. He could be. We don't know. But for right now, he hasn't played a single snap of an NFL game because they haven't played him. They just haven't activated him for a single game. And I think that's very interesting considering the whole situation with Caleb Benenoch being miserable and also, what am I trying to say here? Oh, Evan Smith being what it is. The entire right guard position just being an absolute mess. You figured they'd play Alex Kappa? Not yet. I hope they play him soon, because I would think to at least give him a chance in the second half of the season. Has he been hurt? Because I've just seen he's been inactive. I haven't seen him on an injury report or anything, so nobody talked about an injury. So I don't know, but if he's hurt, well, okay, that's one thing. Then that's just chalk it up to another injury. But I've just seen he hasn't been active. That's all I've seen, is that they haven't activated him. So if he's hurt, well, then that's another injury. But for one reason or another, he hasn't played yet. It's kind of disappointing. Hopefully he can get something in the second half of the season, especially with this whole Benenoch situation being what it is. I kind of want to see Alex Kappa. So hopefully he can be healthy, fully healthy, and being able to play and whatnot. Next is Jordan Whitehead. Again, he's been hurt. It happens. I get it happens. But, geez, when the only healthy guy in this draft class so far has been one guy out of, I think, 5, that's pretty bad. When Whitehead's been on the field, he's looked pretty good. He's looked like he could be a strong second option with Justin Evans, and I think that's probably what they're going to try next year, at least to start. But he hasn't been able to stay healthy, which has been disappointing. He's played in a handful of games. He's missed a handful of games due to injury. When fully healthy, him and Justin Evans, I think they're fine. I think they're totally fine. But again, just like everybody else on this list, he just needs to get a little bit healthy. Anyway, Anyway, the next thing I want to talk about is Justin Watson. Talking about Justin Watson, you know, he hasn't done much so far this year, minus some special teams plays and a catch here and there on offense, which is fine. Obviously, our wide receiver position is the most crowded position. I think he'll come into his own eventually. I think he's a future role player type guy, maybe even the eventual successor to Adam Humphries, if they decide to let him walk in free agency. But yeah, he does fine. I think he did some good stuff in the training camp and preseason. I think that he just needs a little bit more time to develop and carve out his own role in this team. That's what I think. Johnny James, is cap even heavy enough to start yet? When he was drafted, analysis mentioned he needed to put on weight. Possibly. So yeah, not sure. Not sure. Anyway, Jack Sitchie, linebacker, IR. He's on the IR with a torn ACL, which really sucks because when Quan got hurt, I thought, oh, okay, Jack Sitchie's gonna, you know, we get to see Jack Sitchie now. Nope, he also went on the IR, same game, both tore their ACL. What are you gonna do? They both tore their ACL, which sucks because I really like Jack Sitchie's upside, but one of the big knocks against Jack Sitchie was his injury history, which is disappointing. Hopefully he can come back and carve out a role. You know, it's been bad, man. This draft class has been hurt. It has been hurt very badly. But I really wanted to see Jack Sitchie this year at left outside linebacker or middle linebacker because I like the guy. I think he has some good upside. I like all the guys in this draft class. They just need to stop getting banged up. I get that you're gonna be protective of these guys since they're like fresh. You know, they're brand new draft class. But oh man, they've been missing some games. It's very disappointing. Riley Bullough is back. He is back. Oh, bring back Joe Burt. Yeah, or Joe Dirt. Bring back Joe Dirt. Yeah. That's pretty much that's the whole draft class. That's the whole draft class. So a whole lot of injuries to start. That's the main story of this. Is a whole lot of injuries. Oh my gosh, Vita Vea has missed games. Ronald Jones is missing games. Alex Kappa hasn't played in a single game, and according to Steven, he's hurt as well. Jordan Whitehead's been hurt and missed games. Justin Watson, okay, he's not been hurt, but he doesn't need to play. Our wide receiver core is so deep. Jack Sitchie is going to miss games, IR, and he's already missed some games. Carlton Davis, good, very good. I love Carlton Davis. He's great. MJ Stewart, missed games. Great, you know, great. Everybody's telling me, oh, Eric Reed just got ejected. That's good. It's good. Great. Great. We could have had Eric Reed, but, you know, it's whatever. Anyway. I want to move finally on to the draft class. This is the last thing I want to talk about, okay? Ryan Smith is... Oh, we haven't talked about Ryan Smith, I guess. He's been decent. He's been decent. You know, Ryan Smith's been decent, all things considered. But anyway, finally moving on to the free agency class. First, talking about Ryan Jensen. Like I said, he's been a solid start to me. To me, he's been a solid starter, all things considered. I like the fire that he has. I like the leadership that he has. I think he's a team captain, if I'm correct, which is good. I like that a lot. Totally fine with that. Totally fine with Ryan Jensen. I think he was one of the better free agent additions that we made this year in terms of like the big ones. So I like him a lot. Jason Pierre-Paul, best defensive lineman the Buccaneers have had in years. The dude's phenomenal. The dude's great. Jason Pierre-Paul. I wish he'll be here for the next 5 years. I wish he would have been here his entire career. Maybe he wouldn't have blown his hand up with fireworks. Those two are really good free agent signings. Vinny Curry, Bo Allen, both signings from the Philadelphia Eagles, been pretty bleh so far this year. There's been some good with them, and there's been some not so good with them. They've definitely been pretty average so far, which is fine. You know, they kind of have rotational roles anyway, but they're okay. Chandler Catanzaro was another guy. Chandler Catanzaro, again, phenomenal, way better than Roberto Aguayo or Nick Folk. I think it's an upgrade at the kicker position, certainly better than last year. I'm fine with Big Cat. I think they are going to bring in some competition. I think they are going to bring in some competition next season, but for right now, I think they're rolling with him till the end of the year. I love Chandler Catanzaro. I think he's great. Next, I want to talk about a kind of low-key signing was Carl Nassib, and I know the chat's talking about the Steelers-Panthers game right now, but yeah, man, that Carl Nassib's good. He's really good. He's looked better than Vinny Curry in some ways, and it's been impressive. He was a very low-key signing for us. I think we are going to sign him to like a 2-year deal, something along those lines. I think he's great. I think he's great so far. He's definitely a very good rotational guy. He might be a starter eventually. Who knows? Him and JPP together, and Gerald McCoy and Vita Vea. Maybe that's the future for next year. Who knows? But I really hope we re-sign Carl Nassib, because I know we signed him on like a quick deal, and I really hope we re-sign him like a 2-3 year deal. I think that'd be really good for us. Indeed, I don't know why the Browns got rid of that guy, but he's pretty good. All in all, free agency class has looked pretty decent, all things considered. Pretty darn good, right? Would you guys agree with that? I think we could all agree with that. The Bucs free agency class has looked good so far this year. You have strong leaders in Jensen and JPP, decent rotational guys and Vinny Curry and Bo Allen. You got a better kicker, way better kicker in Chandler Catanzaro than Roberto Aguayo and Nick Folk. I know that's not saying much, but I will take an upgrade. And fine free agency class. Probably one of the better ones we've had in a couple of years so far, at least for this season. So, it's been good. Final thing I want to do is I want to take a look game by game and talk about the stories of what's happened. Keep in mind, I'm just going to preface this right now. Every single game, except for the Eagles game and for the Bears game, all had to do with the defense. Get that one out of the way. Fine. There we go. Good to go. Talking about week 1 versus the New Orleans Saints. Buccaneers won 48-40. We won a shootout. It happened a lot this year. We either win a shootout or we lose a shootout. That's fine. It is what it is. Fitzpatrick outdueled Drew Brees and looked amazing doing it. It was good. This was probably the peak of our offensive firepower. The absolute peak. This is like probably the best our offense could have looked to a certain degree. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a very fun game to watch, and I was happy. We were 1-0. Moving on to week 2, we were 2-0. We defeated the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles right after defeating the currently 8-1, 7-1 New Orleans Saints, were their only loss, and then we defeated the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Very good. We obviously didn't have to deal with Carson Wentz. We dealt with Nick Foles, which probably made things a whole heck of a lot easier. It was the best defensive game of the year. We held the Eagles to only 21 points. That's saying a lot. That's saying a whole heck of a lot. But this was a fine game too. The Eagles tried to come back late, but Fitz kept on doing what he was doing. And then Monday Night Football versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, we lost 30-27. And oh boy, the first half was not looking good. Fitz threw 3 interceptions. He looked really out of place. A lot of people were saying, all right, the magic's over. It's completely over. Pack it up. And then Fitz came back, obviously kept it close. The final score was 30-27. Had some missed kicks here and there. In all these games, there's been at least one missed kick, I think, for the most part. But saw a little bit of wavering in the offense, and obviously the defense just dies every game, so it is what it is. The Bucs were currently 2-1. Moving on to week 4, Chicago Bears. It was 48-10. Bucs got blown out. Fitz didn't look very good in the first half. They put Jameis Winston in. He didn't do enough in the second half. Obviously, there wasn't much to do, considering the Bears were absolutely destroying our defense, just ravaging them, just absolutely murdering them. I can't say enough about how much the Bears killed us in this game. I didn't watch this game, thankfully, because I was traveling, and I'm happy because that was miserable. And at this point, the Buccaneers were 2-2. Moving on to week 5 versus the Atlanta Falcons. Another shootout, but the Bucs lost this one 34-29. Again, Jameis played in this game and actually played a pretty darn good game. It was his first full game back. He played all the way through. Did pretty good. He did pretty good, right? 4 touchdowns, I think, 2 interceptions. Not bad. All things considered, he played a pretty good game. About one of the better Jameis Winston games I think we've ever seen. Ever, actually. Maybe the best Jameis Winston game we've ever seen ever. Just wasn't enough. Falcons offense was too much for our defense, much like what it has been for most games this year. And the Bucs lost this shootout, but at least the offense kept it competitive. Then the Buccaneers were 2-3, and they moved on to the Cleveland Browns, where we almost lost this game due to just The offense not taking advantage of the opportunities the defense were giving them. It went into overtime, and the Big Cat won us the game with a 59-yard field goal. Or was it 58-yarder? I can't remember. But anyway, the Big Cat was great. He was great in this game. He won us the game. I don't care what anybody says. Big Cat won us the game. He was great. Was a bit of an up and down game. Pretty meh. All things considered, you know, the offense wasn't there a whole lot. The defense did a whole heck of a lot better. Second best game of the year. But the offense left some things to be desired. But hey, at the end of the day, we won. The Buccaneers were 3-3. We were feeling okay. Moving on to week 7 versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Jameis Winston died in this game. His funeral was held during the second half when Ryan Fitzpatrick came in to replace him after Jameis Winston threw 4 interceptions in the first half, or in 3 quarters, 2.5 quarters, something like that. One of them being returned for a pick 6. Fitzpatrick would come in and make it hella close, 37-34 being your final score. Fitz could have won us the game, I think, but the defense was just too tired. They had just let too much happen. Let up 37 points. A lot of that was due to interceptions, keep in mind. But all in all, it was another shootout. The Bucs lost this one, but Fitz proved that, again, he can come back. Like what he did in the Steelers game, Fitz can come back. And then finally, our most recent game, we were 3-4. We faced the Carolina Panthers, and things did not go well at all. They did not go well at all. The Bucs would lose 28-42. Ryan Fitzpatrick played a good game, all things considered. But again, the Panthers just destroyed this defense, much like most teams have done this year. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Our defense just can't stop most offenses. The best 2 games were against the Eagles and the Browns, and in both situations, I think we can agree that their offenses haven't been the best. Whenever we faced some high-tier offenses, minus the Chicago Bears, it's been shootouts, man. It's been shootouts, and this was another situation. The Panthers had a high-tier offense, and it wasn't even a shootout basically, but they put a lot of points on us, and we still scored 28, but wasn't enough. So yeah, the Buccaneers' first half of the season so far ends at 3-5. Looking ahead now, first game's against the Washington Redskins, and then after that, we have games versus the New York Giants, the San Francisco 49ers, the Carolina Panthers again, the New Orleans Saints, the Baltimore Ravens, the Dallas Cowboys, and then finishing off with the Atlanta Falcons. Do I think we can win these games? I think we can win the first 3. I think we can beat the Redskins, beat the Giants, and beat the Niners, especially the Giants and the 49ers. Panthers is going to be a tough game, but, it is a home game, which is encouraging. Saints, it's also a home game. Then we play the Ravens away. Then we play the Cowboys away. And then we finish off with a home game versus the Falcons. So I think that you can beat the Panthers at home. I think you can beat the Saints at home. I know the Saints are really good, but hey, we beat them once already. Panthers is going to be a tough one. I think you can beat the Ravens. I think the Ravens are a pretty mixed team right now. They're pretty average, so I think the Bucs can hopefully take advantage of that. Same with the Cowboys, and with the Falcons, we'll have them at home. Hopefully that means something. My original record prediction was 9-7, and I still think that's going to be our record prediction, which means the Bucs would have to go 6-2 the rest of the way, right? No, 7. Wait, what am I talking about? 3. Yes, 6-2. Yes, it's possible. I know it seems unlikely. A lot of people are saying 6-10, 3-13, 8-8, 5-11. And that's fine. 9-7. And that's completely fine. I still think they're gonna go 9-7. I have to stick with my original prediction because I'm a YouTuber and nobody will ever let me forget my original prediction. But I think they have the opportunity to win a couple of games here. I think they definitely have the opportunity to go 3-0 in these upcoming 3 games against the Redskins, Giants, and 49ers. Remember a couple of years ago, the Bucs started off 3-4. They had that 5-game winning streak. Hopefully we see something like that again. Finish 9-7. That'd be pretty fun, if you ask me. But we'll wait. We'll see. Obviously, we'll just have to wait and see. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this entire review. I've literally been talking for like 53 minutes straight, and it hurts. My whole mouth hurts. Ugh, I'm taking another drink. Nobody stop me. Ugh. Oh my gosh. That was a lot of talking. Oh, I'm so tired. Okay, with all that being said, for everybody who watches this live as I scrape my microphone with my nails, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. Anyway, for all of you who've been watching live, Patrick, Tommy, Siren, David, Austin, your wife loves me. Okay, I don't have a wife, so joke's on you. And everybody else, Ryan, Frank, Steven, I've seen you in the chat, my friend. You've been correcting me a lot of stuff. Johnny, Soft Needles, and everybody else. Jeremy, Ralph, you know, thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate that. I know I didn't read the chat as much and respond as much, but this was originally supposed to be an edited video, so I kind of wanted to blaze through it, you know, and I talked for a solid hour almost, so, you know, there was a lot to go over. But anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to go do some other stuff right now, such as sleep. That's a big one. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, who are watching this in post as well. That's also greatly appreciated. And until next time, I will see you in the next live stream or the next video. But until then, and as always, goodbye for now, my friends. And go, wait, right hand. Tommy reminded me. He's my latest Patreon backer. Thank you again, Tommy. He reminded me one time to do it with my right hand, so I appreciate that. But anyway, goodbye for now, guys. Go check out all the links in the description, Patreon, donation links, and whatever. Anyway, sorry. Goodbye for now, and go Bucs. Ugh, jeez.